Hello, everybody out there, Backdrop fans and community members. It's November 15th, 2018, and this is the Backdrop Community Outreach meeting, the meeting that we have fortnightly to talk about how to get people more involved with Backdrop and to increase the visibility of the Backdrop project. So we've got an agenda of things to cover here, and we'll just kind of run through them as we usually do with some new items sprinkled throughout. So first of all, the website. The website is our primary tool for letting people know about Backdrop and for people that are interested in it to find information about it. Something that I'm not sure it has been brought up since the Badcamp Backdrop Summit is one of the great ideas that we had come out of that that summit was a way of effectively spreading the message about Backdrop to more people would be to set up pillars or audiences, like so that we would have audience engagement pages like Backdrop for developers, Backdrop for site owners, Backdrop for editors, and make it so that we basically relist the homepage in different ways targeted at specific audiences. Because some features, like right now our homepage is really fairly geared towards developers, but there's some things that we could dive even deeper in as far as developer specific criteria, and we could list that on a dedicated page while taking the most developer stuff off of the homepage and making it more of a generic message. And so that way, in theory, you would be able to say, like, what makes Backdrop good for business, or what makes Backdrop good for a nonprofit? What makes Backdrop good for education? And things like that, because certain things like Backdrop's ability to easily upgrade or maintain a multi-site platform in a fashion similar to 777 is a major selling point for a university, for example, which might have a large 777 multi-site platform, but it's rather inconsequential for like a small business owner that is just like, I just want a website. So it's an idea that we kicked around a little bit, and we thought would be a great idea, but I'm not sure if we have translated that into a backdropcms.org issue yet.
I didn't see any such issue. I'll create one. Basically mimic the Drupal.org page where they actually have implemented that Drupal for developers, marketers, and agencies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Very similar.
I'll see if there is an issue actually and I missed it. If not, I'll file one.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see. We also have this long-standing issue in the backdropcms.org queue 442, which is improving the UI for search functionality. It looks like Jen Lampton has picked this back up as of 14 days ago, 2 weeks ago, and looks like she's only got kind of a plan, but usually when she posts something like that, it actually means that she's started working on it. So that's pretty exciting. Hopefully that will make it so that finding modules, themes, and layouts will be a more pleasurable experience. I know we also still have this really long-standing issue that the search ordering is really poor, that searching for like web form ends up with like web form on like the 7th result or something like that, or searching for devel ends up on the second page, which is really not great. It's actually better inside of the project browser in the software because it sorts by installs. And so the relevancy is actually a lot better when using project browser than it is using the search on backdropcms.org. Anyway, all of those things related under that issue 442. Next thing up is the homepage demo link, and we've got one issue I think that is most relevant to this, and that's 476 under the backdropcms.org issue queue, that basically is describing that users have to log in to Pantheon in order to set up a demo, or they have to sign up for an account. And this is a longstanding issue that we've been wanting to improve upon, that the steps for getting a demo site, there's too many things going on there. We should just be able to click, get a demo site. We shouldn't have to require people sign up for a third-party service in order to use a demo. And also some things like, sometimes people already have 2 demo sites and they can't make a third one for Backdrop on Pantheon. And as far as workshops and things are concerned, the Pantheon dashboard is not really optimized for Backdrop, and you end up teaching people a lot about Pantheon just as a part of I just want a demo. So there's a lot of cruft in the demo process right now, and we'd like to improve upon that. And so we've got a couple of options here. I'm going to mention the ones that we're not actively pursuing right away, and then go into the one that we are looking into. So one of them is using the demo module, which would have a single site that was just set up with Backdrop installed and then demo module on it. And demo module automatically on cron jobs wipes out the entire site on a daily basis and starts them over with a fresh site. And there would be one demo for everybody. Alternatively, we could use ZenCI, possibly. I know Gregory has mentioned doing this on multiple occasions, that he just creates a fake pull request. I think you actually have a constant pull request that is your sample pull request just for getting sandboxes.
Yeah, it says, please ignore this.
Yeah, the Gregory's private pull request sandbox that he just constantly closes and opens again. And that's one way, to get a sandbox for sure that keeps working. And lastly, the option that I've been pursuing as of late is using a service provided by Lullabot, whom I work for. So it's a little conflicty there, but Lullabot has offered to provide basically infinite hosting for both Backdrop and Drupal, in fact, as a replacement for Drupal's use of Simply Test Me. But people involved in Simply Test Me haven't shown a lot of interest in taking up that offer. But I think we are, or at least I'm more than interested in using that offer to make it so that we could set up individual sandboxes, so that when a user clicks try a demo, we would take them to a page in which we might ask them some questions, potentially collect their email address, and then spin up a demo site for them. And that demo site, we have lots of different options for if we want those demos to be long-lived, 2 weeks or more, or really short-lived, a couple of days or even a couple of hours. So we've got options there as to how long we want these things to last, because Tugboat is not intended to be a permanent sandbox tool. It's very similar to ZenCI, that it spins up sandboxes for pull requests, but it also has an API that lets you create these sandboxes on demand based upon a Git repository that we can use to fire up the creation and tearing down of sandboxes from anything, including a form on backdropcms.org. So the current route that I've been taking that is we would click the button on backdropcms.org. It takes you to a page in which we ask you some basic information. You click spin up a sandbox. Long term, I had been thinking about having a video or something like that that's we're preparing your sandbox for you. But in reality, when it came down to how long it takes Tugboat to spin up a sandbox, it only takes about 5 seconds. So it wasn't quite long enough to have a video in the first place. So we might not even need like maybe a progress bar would still be appropriate, but even that might be like a throbber would probably do the job most of the time. So
I could use it for announcements. Simply Test Me has a similar thing. While the progress bar is going on, they use it to toggle 2 or 3 sponsors, like images that rotate. But we could use it for like announcing recent features, like, hey, try this feature that came with a new version of Backdrop or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Like just a slider or something like that. That I think that's what they do. We probably, I don't think that we're obligated in any way to credit Tugboat for their services, but I think that relationship would probably go better as well if we just said, Sandbox is provided by Tugboat QA and specifically stated that. But one nice thing about this is that it's almost entirely transparent that it's using a third-party service. They'll be able to click the button and then they'll we can even alias a subdomain so that it would be like some site hash.demo.backdropcms.org. But there are actually security reasons why we might not want to do that, why we might want to keep it under Tugboat QA or set up a whole different domain just so that people can't try to set cookies that can affect backdropcms.org.
I didn't get what you were explaining before, Nate, about how the sandboxes are actually fired. Like, will we have to do like in the background fake pull requests? Because from what I read briefly in Tugboat side, this is what their service is primarily for. It's for creating pull request sandboxes, right?
Right. Yeah, we won't need to. They have an API and a command line tool that lets you say, create a sandbox off of any Git repository or branch or tag or whatever. So we could even make it so that you could do simply test me type construction where we could say like create a sandbox off of this tag that comes from the GitHub repository. But setting those up takes a lot longer because it actually has to clone the repository when you say a specific tag. But it has this interesting feature called a base preview in which you have one preview basically set up as a template, and then you just say, make me a copy of that preview. And that's the thing that goes ridiculously fast. It only takes a matter of seconds to make a copy of a repository and give you an entirely fresh version just for you.
Yeah, and another question is like, if we offer, like, I get the point that Pantheon is like setting the bar higher, or the barrier, I would say, because people have to register, but it offers I'm not a fan because I've never used it before, but it does offer the ability to, once you test the site, to actually spin up an actual site after that.
Yeah,
does Tugboat offer that?
No. And I feel like that's actually a mixed blessing, a mixed bag, where it's like, it's good that we don't need to create an account for them to get started, and there's no limit to the number of sandboxes that they can create. But the downside is that there's no ability to permanently maintain your site once you've built it out. And perhaps that
that's worth mentioning while the progress bar is going on. Maybe say that if you actually want to spin on the site after that, maybe use Pantheon.
Yeah, I actually think it would be good for us to have something similar to demo module installed on these sites that puts it in the little countdown in the corner that says like the sandbox will expire in, X amount of time, just to be really clear about it, that what you're working with is something kind of temporary.
Yeah, it was like, so in Simply Test Me, there was for like 2 or 4 hours, then they extended it to 24 hours. And I think that recently I noticed a link next to that thing saying request extension or something like that.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
Yeah. I think the idea too was to provide, to make Tugboat maybe the main option, right? But to have another possibilities link, so.
We already, besides Pantheon, we offer others as well. It's just Pantheon was the main one till now. And one of the concerns from many people, including myself, was that Pantheon was not offering backdrop. Like if you if you go directly and register Pantheon, when you try to spin up something, it offers WordPress and Drupal. It doesn't offer an option for though they support it, they don't offer a direct option for backdrop. And we were considering that. I think DDev, which one was it that actually? Anyways, one of the other providers was actually offering officially supporting, an option for backdrop. So some people said that instead of Pantheon, maybe we should promote someone that actually promotes backdrop back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I think a platform like may even officially support backdrop, and we've actually gotten some inquiries from shared hosting providers. I think Bluehost reached out to us saying, "Hey, we've got this thing that we'd like backdrop to be a part of." Although it was a little bit funny. It sounded kind of fishy, where they were basically saying, "We want you to write a blog post about our service," and it's like they weren't actually going to do anything. But still, there's opportunities there for nurturing those relationships, and Backdrop does run really well on shared hosts. So there's lots of opportunities there for providing different vendors. I know that's one of the primary revenue streams for Drupal.org, as well as referral systems to each one of those providers. So that's another possibility. Anyway, I like that Tugboat basically, even though it might not say it officially supports Backdrop or anything like that, they actually do even officially support it, though. I guess I shouldn't say that, because they have like a documentation for how to use Backdrop and a GitHub repository for how to set up Backdrop with Tugboat. So there's been a lot of positive interaction with them as a service, but because they're not trying to get people to sign up for permanent hosting accounts, they're trying to get people to use the QA service. We're not pushing people into a sign-up like process, because what we're using it for is not Tugboat's primary offering. Anyway,
I think it's pretty decent of them that they're offering this service for other open source projects.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's the thing, is that as far as like us using it and promoting it, like that gets them what they want the most, which is visibility. So so it's an opportunity there. We're not actually even totally committed to using it. I think we're kind of going to put it together and see what it looks like, and then we'll kind of evaluate it further if we think that it's a major improvement or not.
Have you actually started working on it, Nate?
Yeah, I put together some demonstration stuff and showed it to Jen, and we have a Tugboat account now that is tied. Oh, and there's under the Backdrop Ops group, there's a new repository called Backdrop-Tugboat.
So that
it's like a Git clone of Backdrop with some minor modifications. It's basically exactly the same as the Backdrop Pantheon repository. It kind of acts as an upstream.
Okay.
Which means when we make new releases, it'll be yet another place for us to pull down and push up. We'll have to update the Sandbox version as well. All right, let's continue on. So other things that we can do with the website include writing regular blog posts. We've got some blog posts that we've got kind of on the docket, a Bad Camp retrospective, which was intended to be done today, although I don't think that has been put together. Jack Aponte, Wes, Mike McCaffrey, and Jen were all potentially going to put something together, because they were all present for that. And also the covering like the Backdrop training and the Backdrop Summit. All of those things were really great events during Bad Camp. And then looks like, Tim, you've potentially volunteered to do maintaining modules for Backdrop.
Right. I was going to do that in a couple of weeks. Jack popped into Slack earlier in the week and apologized because he said he was trying to get something done this week and said he couldn't. So that's why I stepped forward and tried to do the happy birthday one. I thought to try and get something done quickly.
Okay. Yeah, that's fantastic. And thank you for doing that. I was going to mention that as well, that those two things were what we had kind of slated last time we spoke. But yeah, you've stepped forward and put together a blog post on Google Docs so far that is nearly ready for publication. That is like, hey, let's celebrate Backdrop's birthday, which is coming up January 15th. And maybe we could go ahead and mention that as well. That mention again that Luke is planning on doing a Backdrop birthday party January 15th to celebrate. Is it Backdrop's 5th birthday? Is that right?
I think 4th.
4th birthday. It had a long gestation period where it was not. It was being created, but it wasn't quite born yet. Okay. Let's see. Other ideas. There's some Software Freedom Conservancy blog posts that people have been waiting on me for a long time on about just, hey, we're joining the Backdrop Freedom Conservancy and what that means. Some articles on security, the way that we handle security releases, potential options on integrations, third-party services like Fastly or hosting providers, another community spotlight issue, Backdrop 1.12, of course, when that comes out, and yeah, any other things that we could potentially come up with. If any Backdrop community members have ideas for things they would like to publish on backdropcms.org, they can do that. They can request editorial permissions on backdropcms.org, either by sending an email to info@backdropcms.org or requesting in Gitter. And we'd be more than happy to make it so that you can post directly to backdropcms.org. And thank you, Tim, for your initiative in saying, we need another article, and just like whipping one up that just was on the top of your head. That's super helpful.
Right. I think the goal was, we talked 2 weeks ago about trying to get something out every 2 weeks. So that was.
Yeah. That was our objective. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'll be down for taking a look at that later this evening as well. I think, Jen's occupied today, but maybe later today, she'll be able to take a look at it as well.
Before we move to the newsletter, Nate, there was a small idea that was brought up in Gitter. So when you go to d.org and you try to evaluate a module or a project or core itself, if you like, they have usage statistics and they have them linked from the project page. We are mentioning the number of downloads and the number of active installations, but we are not linking to any of these stats. And our stat page do not have a graph that shows over time progress and so on. So I was thinking that maybe we could, from the sidebar in each project where we mention the active installs, we could actually link to the usage statistics. And then also mention the number of active Backdrop sites on our showcase page. I created tickets for that. Like maybe in the showcase page, we can say that there's 627 sites currently using Backdrop. Here's a few examples, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, you're right that we don't link right now the usage data, although we are definitely generating it. And yeah, if we just wanted to make that number into a link, that would be really trivial. And then longer term, like adding a graph would also be a good improvement. I think that is not it's not part of the project module. It's just some theming that was added for Drupal.org that we didn't need to do something similar, I think. Okay, yeah, next up, newsletters, videos, and tweets. I kind of feel like I'm not going to recap all of these things since we've spent some time talking about the website. So other ways that we can get the Backdrop message out, we can send out regular newsletters, kind of the same topics that we could use for articles, or even we could take the articles and cross-link them into newsletters. Those would all be really great ways to use the newsletter or to use the mailing list. Videos, we could do YouTube videos of any kind. I think that we had a couple of presentations during Batcamp, an hour-long demo, and a philosophy of Backdrop CMS that we linked up on our YouTube page that were published by Batcamp, and then we put them into our related videos playlist. And we can do that for anything. Any video published by anyone, we can kind of put it into the promoted video section of the Backdrop CMS channel. And so any videos that are out there, feel free to publish them directly to your own accounts. Then we can cross-link them over into the Backdrop channel. Tweeting, we always are tweeting, always be tweeting. And so if there's anything that you think that we would be great to tweet, let Jen know. Basically, she largely schedules all the tweets and puts them all together. Let's see, events and meetups. The last event that we had, actually, is this right? I think we've had a meeting since Badcamp, so I'm not going to recap that. Yeah, we did. There was one right after Badcamp, so I won't recap Badcamp again. There are great videos of some of the sessions that were put together. The summit and the all-day training also were pretty excellent. Let's see. I think the one big thing that is coming, that is on the near horizon, is the aforementioned Backdrop birthday party on January 15th. Also, I guess it's a little late to mention it right away, but or mention it now. But the Nonprofit Developer Summit is happening right now. That's where Jen is today, spreading the word about Backdrop, and so that's a really great event that there's a lot of positive momentum around Backdrop in the nonprofit space, especially those nonprofits that are using Civi CRM. Backdrop is right now the best solution for using Civi CRM on a new website. I'm just going to put that out there. Maybe that's biased, but it's definitely a preferred system because Drupal 7 is so old and Drupal 8 isn't working yet, and WordPress, it's not actually fully integrated because it's heavily dependent upon views. So Backdrop meets all the criteria for being an excellent system for Civi CRM, which for many nonprofits makes it an excellent solution for their website.
Where is that nonprofit?
It's in downtown Oakland. It's in Preservation Park specifically. Let's see. Yeah, the Nonprofit Developer Summit is interesting in that there's no schedule announced beforehand. It's truly like bar camp style where people. What's that, Tim?
Unconference, yeah.
Unconference, yeah, where ideas are basically only put out there at the start of the day or the start of the conference, and then a schedule is kind of cobbled together minutes before they happen or the sessions happen. So yeah, it's still remarkably effective. I was really shocked the first time I went to that conference how much information was conveyed, even though it was in an organic manner.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll head down to that.
Yeah, you can try. I think they're sold out though, and because it is something you do need to purchase ahead of time. So it's a little bit it is a little conferencey in that regard that there's a ticket price.
All right.
Let's see. I think that's it. One last topic that I wanted to mention, just because it was brought up today in Gitter, which is kind of ironic, is chat alternatives. That's Tim, I think, brought up the fact that Grab CMS is moving off of Slack onto Discord as their chat application. That's kind of they wrote up an interesting blog post about why they're deciding to do that. But it's really interesting that the reasons that they listed for why Slack isn't appropriate for the community is that Slack isn't made for isn't made for large open source projects. It has a limited history, limited file upload sizes, and the pricing model is really expensive because it's a per user pricing model. And for a community of 100 or 1,000 people, like when you have to pay $20 or $25 a seat, that gets really expensive for a project that is all donation driven. So all of those reasons are the reasons why we never started using Slack in the first place. But it is really interesting that they chose using Discord as their chat provider, and I think everybody is kind of like so about Gitter. Like, it's great that it generally works. It's great that it's integrated with GitHub, but like it's just kind of okay, like as a chat application. So anyway, for the time being, we're not really changing anything. It's just kind of interesting to see other communities exploring chat options in the same way that we have been.
Although I inserted that other note about so the forum is a big outreach tool. And one of the things I've been doing is, and I like feedback on this, is as I spot new topics in the forum that I can't answer, is I just drop them into Gitter, because I figure the sooner people get responses, that just is going to improve people's perceptions of backdrop. And somebody suggested hooking. Is there a way to automatically post new topics in the forum into Gitter? I don't know if, in the long term, if that's desirable, but right now it's pretty low volume.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And it would just sort of alert people in Gitter that, hey, there's somebody's asking something in the forum, and it might speed up the response time a little bit, which I think is a good thing right now. I mean, it over time, if the forum gets super busy, that might be not practical, but
yeah, it would also be really great, and then it would further like incentivize people to use the forum, because the chat is great for ephemeral things, but it's terrible for historical record and for searchability. And so the forum is really great at those things. And generally, I think we would like to encourage people, if they have a question, to use the forum rather than chat.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't know how hard that would be or if it's possible, but it seemed like an interesting idea.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm sure, I hope that there's some kind of Gitter API. I think that would be the first thing we need to look into.
Where would we create a ticket for this? Would this be?
We have an issue queue tracked on the forum site, I think so. Backdrop ops / forum.backdropcms.org. Yeah,
that makes sense. Got it.
Okay. Any other things that anyone would like to bring up for the outreach meeting? No? Okay. Well, we've got about 10 minutes, then we'll be reconvening again for the weekly developer meeting. Thank you, everybody out there, for watching, and thank you guys especially for joining today. Okay. Bye, everybody.